back to the Kill James Bond podcast. This is a podcast about Kill James Bond. It's a podcast that's Kill James Bond. It's Kill James Bond, the podcast. My name is Abigail Thorne. Thorne Abigail, that's my name. I'm here with Devon and with Alice Caldwell-Kelly. Alice Caldwell-Kelly, she's the host of the show. So is Devon, they're a host of the show. And Abigail Thorne, she's a host of the show. It's a podcast called Kill James Bond. This week we're talking about a film called Speed Racer. That's right, Speed Racer. It's a film. It's called Speed Racer. Racer, comma, speed. No, Speed Racer!
You've done my introduction for me. I don't even know what I'm here for anymore.
Mach Gogogo, and welcome to Kill James Bond.
Yo, my name's Pod. I'm here to do a podcast. My teachers hate that I'm obsessed with casting pod, but they shouldn't have named me this, quite frankly.
Yeah. You're in school, you're doing a test, and you're just filling it out in the shape of like a blue Yeti microphone.
Like writing out what if a Swedish guy was Italian, like in my essay notes.
They're like bringing your mum in for a conference, and they're like, they can't stop doing bits in class.
To be fair, I think they did say something quite similar to that to my parents.
It turns out that there is a sort of a medical name for not being able to stop doing bits in class, and it's ADHD.
What?
Which is also relevant to both this podcast and the movie that we're talking about, which is Speed Racer.
Mm-hmm.
First name Speed, last name Racer.
That's right.
Which is sort of the forgotten Wachowski Sisters film in a lot of ways.
This is what the Wachowski Sisters made, I think, immediately after The Matrix. When one of them, I get them mixed up, is it Lena? Lena had transitioned in private, but came out publicly after the release of this film, and I think that actually explains a great deal about what the film is like. I don't think Lily was out yet.
I'm not 100% sure of the timeline on this.
It's in a weird sort of transitional phase. They're credited as brothers, which always jolts me when I see it in credits.
Yeah, very weird.
Like, no, wrong, incorrect.
Yeah.
I think I have the... There we go. Fuck, you perfectly tone matched the thing. You just
I know
like...
what I'm doing.
Beautiful, incredible.
Yeah, I'm playing that before to like get it right, like I'm doing like vocal warm-ups. Just like
doing TikToks with it, yeah.
Yeah. So after The Matrix, they did a children's movie, which is an adaptation of an anime series, which is Mach Gogogo, in English, Speed Racer, about a boy who likes to drive very fast.
Yes.
And this was like sort of a box office bomb. It's had like mixed reviews, didn't do very well. They went on to other things, and this sort of like got left in the dustbin of history. And now Speed Racer has had this sort of like critical reappraisal, where increasingly people are saying you should go back and revisit this. You should go back and look at this because it's actually it's aged quite well, and the critics didn't know what they were talking about.
That's right.
To which I simply answer, I'll be the judge of that. Thank you. So I will be, and I am, and court is now in session. Oh
no.
We begin. We begin with a young boy who was at school, and in sort of what I thought was an interesting decision. He's like daydreaming at school. He can't focus. I thought, they're doing like an ADHD thing. He's like, he cannot think about anything other than car racing. It's like in his brain. He's like daydreaming doing it.
Speed Racer has like ADHD. I once went on a date and got incredible dick from Speed Racer, and then he just like didn't text me back, and I was really upset. And then I realized, Speed has ADHD. It's not that he doesn't text me back; it's that he's just literally fucking forgotten I exist.
Yeah, he's thinking about doing bits exactly. And I mean, yeah, no one who has ever texted me could possibly relate to that. But so his teacher is very frustrated with him because, like, he fills out every test in the form of racing car, regardless of what the answers are. And we see his teacher talk to his mum, Susan Sarandon, by the way, looking fantastic in this, that's a theme that we're going to develop later. And she's just like, oh yeah, it's probably because of both his dad, who was a race car driver, his big brother, who is a race car driver, Rex, whom he idolizes.
And additionally, it might be the fault of the fact that we named him Speed Racer. That's on his birth certificate.
Yes.
My surname is Racer. We are calling our child Speed.
Yeah. Incidentally, by the way, both Speed Racer brackets extremely young and the teacher and everyone else have Australian accents, and then they forget they're doing that another 10 minutes into this movie. It's
Something that's
weird.
really baffling to me is that the teacher at some point says, I probably stuttered there like Porky Pig for a moment. The teacher says to Speed Racer's mother about his father being like a race car driver / creator. Oh, I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree then, in sort of like quite a rude tone of voice, which is a strange thing to do when talking about someone with
thing to say.
Like a successful and well-playing job.
Yeah.
Just be like,
Yeah. So, and she's like, Speed Racer, slow down. He does not. He runs out of the school, enters a sort of like special effects green screen world where we will spend the
very
rest
Spy
of the movie.
Kids 3D. Like the colors are very saturated. I have an interesting hypothesis about why this is that we can talk about in the analysis zone at the end, but it looks very much like Spy Kids 3D. It hasn't aged fantastically.
And in a sort of like improbable scenario, everything about the sort of like transit and urban planning and like life of the civilization in which Speed Racer lives is based around cars, around private automobiles.
It's insane to me.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And all of the cars are sort of like very futuristic, very, fast-looking, sort of like conceptual things.
And his big brother Rex picks him up, and then Speed really wants to go to the racetrack. And Rex is like, no. And then he's like, go on. And, okay, cool. So they go, and Rex like teaches him to drive. They have some like bonding moments. Rex tells him like the car is alive.
Rex teaches him to drive in the funniest way. First of all, he's like, okay, you got to do the like Marinetti futurist thing. You got to become one with the machine.
Yeah, you got to listen to the car, Speed.
To a small child. And then the small child goes, okay, well, how do I do that? And he gives him the best possible piece of driving advice, which is you got to close your eyes.
Yeah, it's actually easier to drive if you close your eyes.
Got to use the driving force. Basically.
I cannot stress enough that every racetrack in this universe looks like Rainbow Road. Like, there's just no handrails, there's nothing. It's not flat. There are loop-de-loops and shit.
I was going for, like, Trackmania was what I would have
Yeah,
It's like
nice.
F-Zero X shit.
or
Like it's properly like futuristic, like jumps and stuff. And like cars, we see like over the course of the film that cars wreck, they blow up, they have gadgets. It's very wacky races. But it's also very safe because when a car wrecks and explodes, the drivers are like teleported out in like a safe bubble. So they always survive. So nobody dies. So it's like
they
kid
establish
friendly.
that really early. They make sure to establish so clearly that you don't die, and then they spend the entire rest of the film just blowing cars up like it's no one's business.
Yeah, so they will show
Nice.
you like cars getting wrecked like it's fucking Mad Max Fury Road. Then the driver will be in the next scene like, darn it, you defeated me this time, Speed Racer.
And we see one of those sort of like nemesis drivers at this point because we flash forward and we spend like a lot of the movies like intercut at different times in ways that make it quite hard to summarize. But we go forward to sort of like young man Speed Racer ready for his like big first competitive race. He's got a picture of Rex in his locker and he is racing against a guy called Snake Oiler.
Yeah, sick.
Who I love. Snake Oiler steals the scene. He shows up. He's wearing a snake themed helmet.
Yeah, all the drivers
it's like
have
shaped like a snake. Yeah. He like snarls at the camera like a snake doesn't, and then immediately loses badly. He just gets his entire dick kicked in by Speed Racer. It's all I want. It's fantastic.
And I mean,
And like we keep cutting back to the past to Speed's childhood as he's like racing Snake Oiler. We learn about him and we establish a few things. So like Speed has his older brother Rex and his dad Pops, John Goodman. He also has his mum.
Yeah, John Goodman.
Great.
John Goodman. It took 10 men to put that fake moustache on John Goodman. I was trying to think who he reminds me of. Yeah, like a bear. I'm trying to think who he reminds me of, and he looks exactly like sort of Donald Trump's pallbearer, Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, who
really
looks like him. And once you notice that, it's really jarring. But so
Speed has a girlfriend too, Trixie.
Trixie,
Christina
yeah.
Ricci. Hello.
Yeah, Trixie.
Giving a fucking incredible performance in this film, by the way. Like, not an easy role, but she's like game for it. And in the present, Speed has a little brother called Spritle. Strange name. My notes also say
Pokemon vibe,
and there's a chimp.
Yeah, at this point I write down in all caps: chimp detective.
The chimp has found us at last.
You see, I didn't make any note of the chimp because neither does the movie.
Yeah.
There's just a chimp and he sees it's like, that's fine.
We just have a pet chimp called Chim Chim.
As he's racing Snake Oiler, we see his family, and it is Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. 10 out of 10 Smoke Show Susan Sarandon. 10 out of 10 Smoke Show Christina Ricci. Like another small boy,
annoying child,
and a chimp.
That's not their entire family, I'll have you know,
No,
because they have an additional family member, which is the live-in queer platonic Australian man who is just present.
This is Sparky. This is the dad's sort of like live-in 24/7 mechanic bottom.
I don't really know. He's just an Australian guy.
Speed's dad. He's just an Australian man who works for him.
He's in the family. He's in every white shot.
The best way I can explain Sparky is if you've seen Glass Onion. It's very close to that's Daryl. He's not part of the experience.
It's so fucking funny because Sparky is present for the entire movie, but at no point is his like relationship really explained. And there are multiple shots when
really
like
do anything.
during like a really dramatic scene or something, there'll be a reaction cut of Sparky, and I lose my shit every single fucking time.
You could literally edit him out of this film, but the story would be exactly
it's just
the
like
same.
Sparky's here too, and you're like, whoa.
Also featuring Sparky. But anyway, so when Speed was a child, Rex did something. It's not entirely clear, but he was forced to leave racing in disgrace and leave his car to Speed.
We gotta go back a bit because we're blasting through this like Speed Racer. A lot of shit happens in the first 10 minutes, and then not a lot for the next bit. It's an unevenly paced movie, which is ironic. So Speed is like racing against, like in racing games you have like a ghost car of your own best time.
That's right.
They've just done that. So he's racing against literally the ghost of his brother. And one of the commentators says he's chasing the ghost of Rex Racer because it's a children's
straight
movie.
at the camera.
Yeah. Rex set the track record.
Yeah, and Speed pulls back at the last second so he doesn't beat his brother's record and it stays on the board. We also go back and we see Trixie meet him for the first time.
Yeah, this one's weird.
And sort of well, first of all, it teaches you a valuable lesson, which is when a mean Australian child says the R word, or indeed when anyone says the R slur, you punch him in the mouth.
Yeah, no.
And that's...
This child says the R slur on stream, and then Trixie just
a young child who is billed in the credits, by the way, as Blonde Pack Leader, which I thought was very funny, is talking to Trixie and calls Speed the R slur, and I wrote, careful! You can't be saying that kind of
thing. We can't go 2 for 2 on just sniping Twitch streamers we've been annoyed by lately. The last time we...
No, like careful Whitey,
I feel as if I'm being gaslit here.
I would never gaslight you.
I've been them bossed.
But so she
knocks this kid out.
This kid clean in the mouth. Speed sees this, loses control of the car, and you get a perfect version of when the smoke clears. I'm lying completely dead on the ground.
Yeah, fully.
He is face down. But Trixie comes to rescue him, and there's a little, how IMDb has a trivia section.
That's right.
You can get on these. So this is one that I like here, which is it's under the references section. When Speed looks up at Trixie, she appears upside down, and this is in reference to her character being Australian.
What? What?
Fuck shit, cinema, baby. That's fucking filmmaking.
Cinema sins.
Wheels
dig.
within wheels. Yeah, that's right. So he takes her home to meet the family. She meets Rex. She meets John Goodman.
And Sparky's
and
also
then
here.
Sparky is also present. Really the fulcrum of every scene. And someone tries to fucking unibomb John Goodman.
Someone
Find
attempts
out
to
what the
kill.
fuck this is about.
This is never referenced again. It doesn't even really affect them at all. But someone attempts to fucking kill Pop Racer.
I guess as we learn later on, racing's a dirty business, but like somebody tries to blow them up with a mail bomb, and Rex like saves the day because he's so cool. And yeah, that's it basically.
Yeah, that's it.
So at this point, Rex now becomes like disgraced, and he sits Speed down, and he's like, "They're gonna tell you about a bunch of shit that I did." But I didn't do it. I'm gonna have to like disappear for a while.
It's all made up because people are jealous of how hot I am on Twitter.
Yes,
It's not real. They're just exaggerating it. No, I couldn't have phrased the tweet any other way.
Just going 3 for 3 on this shit. I swear to God, we are the most beef-starting podcast.
You're trying to talk about Speed Racer, and all of us are just like grinding
All of us
axes.
just, like,
You see
venting our
this
various-
shit on Twitter the other day?
Various frustrations.
This shit's coming out in like 2 weeks.
with people who we like respect.
Do we?
I've
Well,
never
anyway.
respected anyone.
So Rex goes to leave home, and Pops immediately on the way out sees him and goes,
"You're selling out."
and it's just kind of like, yeah, bitch made, get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
just
this
like,
is a pivotal scene.
This is-
that
yeah,
Rex,
we should-
Rex goes to leave, and John Goodman is like, "You fucking suck. I hate you. Get out."
yeah, get out. If you leave through that door, you can't ever come back. And he does.
Yeah.
It's important.
And we see then that Rex is embroiled in scandal. He's like accused of cheating.
And driving dirty.
That's right.
Yeah, he's like the dirtiest racer in the game. There are like accusations of links between him and like organized crime, to which, you know, imagine any link between motorsport and organized crime at any point in history. It's never happened. It never will. The FIA has never done anything suspicious or wrong. At this point, you know, there's a lot of this happening in quick succession.
Yeah.
Neither Sparky nor the chimp are on screen, so I kind of lose interest.
It's like, what's the point,
The
really?
sort of,
But Rex, Rex crashes in a rally race and is presumed dead. And we see that it like tore the family apart, and like, you know, Speed vowed to live up to his brother's great ability and become a great race car driver. That's his
right.
whole thing. This is all the first 10
which
minutes.
he does, yeah. And this is what he does, and so he gets this like close second to the record, which is, you know, sort of like hugely impressive, and like makes his name as a young race car driver. And after this, we now see that the Racer family, which runs as like an independent racing team, is sort of in high demand by major sponsors. And John Goodman says the first of, frankly, an alarming number of things in this movie that when you try and make a drop out of them, make his character sound very racist. So he just
That's because the sponsors control the media, Sparky.
drops that one in the middle bracket.
Yeah, pretty much. But we also see that when Speed let his brother's record stand, there's a mysterious man watching in the stands, and it's the actor
Yes.
Matthew Fox, the star of Lost. He's an actor I like to see.
It is also worth noting that we've done a phenomenal job, quite frankly, of putting all of these scenes in order. But when you watch this movie, every single scene transition is marked by a slide, sort of a wipe of a guy sliding across the
my
screen.
God.
One of the
this
various.
film has editing.
There are
commentators
other
usually.
wipes than star wipes.
There aren't.
Why have hamburger when you could have steak? Yeah, this movie loves to like wipe a character's face across the
It
screen
loves
horizontally.
it so fucking
And
much.
it is excessive.
It's edited like a cartoon, and like the visuals are like a cartoon too. Like because it's
But
what it is.
I think the idea is, before Scott Pilgrim, mind you, the attempt here is to try and do a live-action anime. And the result is, for me, I found it quite, like, difficult on a sensory basis, which is kind of ironic, I think.
Yeah, a little
It's
bit.
also quite difficult to pull drops because all the dialogue has this kind of, like, frenetic
Overlapping
music
quality,
under it
yeah.
all the time. It's like one sort of, like, 2-hour-long montage.
I think the comparison to Scott Pilgrim is very good. I think Scott Pilgrim did it slightly, which we'll have to watch at some point. Did it slightly more successfully because they didn't go quite so hard. It's still got like a core of realism, whereas this is almost like a little bit too out there.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that Scott Pilgrim puts up a big sort of like warning sign that like it's about to do some like anime flavored shit.
Yeah.
You have some sort of like a build up into the fight scene where a guy gets, you know, like punched across the entire room. Whereas with Speed Racer, it's the whole movie, and even the sort of like quieter, slower filler scenes are still filmed that way, which is more commitment to the bit.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote a note, nobody makes movies like this anymore. And then about 5 seconds later, I wrote, Robert Rodriguez makes movies like this. Because that's sort like the comparison to Spy Kids 3D is perfectly apt, although it's also a lot more, I would say, like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, in that this is an entirely CG world with just some guys wandering around in it, and it's early 2000s CG.
They filmed this in 2 months.
60 days!
Almost entirely on green screen. But at this point, so they're having breakfast, and Pops is explaining his theories about who controls the media.
That's right.
And everything begins to rumble because certified guy we love to see,
Love this actor.
Roger Allam,
One of my favorite
Roger
actors
Allam
currently working, like really good.
lands a VTOL on their lawn. And his name is Royalton, and he is sort of like this oleaginous, somewhat sinister businessman, right? And he has come to make them an offer. But first, he has a sort of weird thing. He goes,
Is that pancakes I smell?
because there are pancakes, and we get
Slightly odd scene. You could have cut this and like
uncomfortably high definition pancake close up. I'd really like to make the episode art the like close in shot on Roger Allam's face having eaten a pancake.
I really enjoy this performance and this character, and I think the way that Royalton is deployed in the film, I think like makes it a lot cleverer than it might appear, but we'll get into that. So Royalton says to him, like, I know that like Racer Motors, you're like a small family business, and he's like, look, I totally understand. Like, I started out as a really small business. I wasn't always like Jeff Bezos, mega rich. Like, I've got my company's like my family. I still care about it the way you care about your thing. So like, I want to sponsor Speed, but let me show you what I can give you.
There is one interesting thing here that I wanted to draw out, which is he tries to sell him how like impressed he is with his driving, which he does with this line.
Young man, you gave me goosebumps.
To which we then cut to Sparky, who goes, ugh, and like pulls a face. And I'm like, that's curious. That's a little bit homophobic.
The way that Royalton like wears that purple a lot and is a bit like is kind of slightly.
I mean, it comes with a territory of a live-in Australian. Like, sometimes they're just like this. It's a shame, but you know.
Yeah, you do your best to like train your Australian, but
it's really hard to housebreak an Australian.
By the way, at this point, no one else is talking Australian, which is sort of like we
Just
everyone else. We see Trixie again at some point. No one has an Australian accent, but they did as children, and I'm like, does this mean that in the Speed Racer universe, everyone starts as Australian? That stops at puberty.
Yeah.
And like everyone we perceive as Australian
a bit.
Being
Yeah, but everyone who is like still Australian is like an age play fetishist. Like Sparky is on some fucking shit.
I would actually say it's that everyone starts out as Australian. It's sort of like the larval stage of human. Whereas Sparky is just exhibiting neoteny like a axolotl does.
Actually, I can tell you the real answer to this, which is that this film was made in Australia, and that when like big studios come to a country, for example, Australia or Britain, the crew and the extras and the small roles will all be played by people from that country. But the stars and the lead roles will be flown in from America. So if a big movie studio ever promises to come to your country, listeners, and promises it's going to bring you jobs, they will bring you only the shit jobs.
Ah, fun.
There you go.
But so, as you say, Abby, he like sells them quite successfully on. Let me introduce you to my corporate family.
Yeah,
so
he takes them to CGI City.
Yep.
Gives them the tour of Royalton Industries, which is very Spy Kids. It's very impressive.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's sort of now retro-futuristic, because I wrote down, you remember when Segways were going to be the future? And then the owner of Segway segwayed off a cliff on his Segway?
He did that incredible bit about Segway Frankenstein?
The final Segway.
Yeah.
A damn shame.
Well...
But they have, Royalton Industries have this amazing facilities. They build their own race cars. They've got a famous race car driver called Cannonball Taylor, who's part of their stable. And he meets Speed. Speed's very impressed. It's all very showy, but maybe a little bit too good to be true.
They go through the whole factory, and everything looks a bit like a Winamp skin, and that's not a reference that everyone's going to get. But some of you will be too young for it. But that's the kind of sort of globular weird vibe it has. Also, just a small thing, but actually no, not a small thing. This is a theme that I want to draw out, but I may as well do it now. We meet a woman called Jeannie, who's sort of talent management, right? And there's a lot of other sort of various of women standing around, and we get to a problem that I've noticed with sort of every Wachowski movie, and also the reason why we shouldn't let trans women make movies.
Well, I've got some good news
Abby,
for you, because we are not allowed to.
So every woman, and I mean every woman in this movie, and there are a decent number, is an 11 out of 10 smoke show baddie. And I think the problem here is that the two sisters making this, right, cannot imagine an unattractive woman, right? And that, to me, it smacks of the sort of early transition thing where you can't look at basically any woman without getting the yearn and think, oh shit, would she she's got to be incredibly happy with how she looks. I would do anything to look like that. Therefore, all women are goddesses and we must cast appropriately. And the result is kind of curiously, I think, accidentally misogynistic.
Yeah, it was too nice.
Quite strange.
Thing is, though, if you start making movies before 22, you won't pass.
Come on, we gotta get through this.
We're getting there.
Speed Racer.
So anyway, Royalton's what do you think of all this? And John Goodman's truth be told, I don't really like it.
He says some more things that sound racist out of context. I think this is the right drop.
People like you have way too much money.
Yeah.
It was a different time. Pop's from a really he's from a different time.
But me
when I'm around cis women,
this kind of company scares me.
So
Speed says he wants to take some time to think about it. Royalton's yeah, cool, take as much time.
And we get this sort of edge of nastiness about it, but nothing we can sort of prove yet.
Great
we get
performance.
the sense that we
really solid.
Getting sort of a bit gaslit here.
Yeah, because Speed looks like he's about to say no, but Royalton steps in very quickly and is like, why don't you take some time to think about it? We'll get back together in a week, maybe.
Yeah. Because Pops' thing is obviously you do control the media, but if it makes my son happy, then fine, whatever he decides. So at this point, we cut to a new location where there is a sort of a twink with dyed hair getting his shirt ripped open and getting the absolute fuck slapped out of him. And finally, I can relate to someone in this movie.
Finally, I started paying attention to the movie. It's like, oh, here we go.
He's about to like get a weird little cut on the inside of his wrist by accident. So this is Taijo Togokan, who is a racing driver, who is being tortured and threatened by you're sort of like East End Cockney gangster.
Yeah, John Bernfield, baby, playing Cruncher Block.
Incredible name.
Spot on.
This is one thing I love about anime and anime adaptations is you keep the names, and the names are great. So Cruncher Block's deal is that he's like a race fixer. He is the organized crime in the link between organized crime and racing. And he like threatens Taijo's sister because he had been fixing Taijo's races, and now Taijo wants to go his own way. And obviously you don't quit organized crime when you're useful to them. And so he like threatens him with a big tank of piranhas. At which point,
and then we get two reveals in very swift succession, both of which are fucking beautiful. First of all, we meet Race Car Batman.
Yep, that's what I also wrote.
A phone goes off. I get perfectly taken out, sniped by my own bullshit. Where I'm like, that says Volkspolizei on the fucking card in the middle of the phone. That's an East German phone, and then I go and read about East German telephones for a couple of hours.
I remember this, which is why it takes you 3 hours to watch a half-hour movie these days.
I estimate for 2 to 3 times the running length for anything for this.
It happens to listeners.
But and Car Batman shows
Race Car Batman is bearing down upon these guys, and we get the perfect reveal that this entire sequence thus far has taken place in a lorry.
Yeah, very fun.
It's great.
I fucking loved that so much.
Mm-hmm.
The various boys open concealed firing ports on the walls and start shooting out at Car Batman.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird that you have a Car Batman, given that sometimes regular Batman is Car Batman, but it's fine.
No, this is a very specifically Car Batman.
Mm-hmm. It's Racer X, played by Matthew Fox.
That's right.
Yeah, he's got a big X on his
Racer
helmet and on his
X.
jacket. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, baby.
He's got guns on his car like he's 14.
This is your Char-ass.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Mm-hmm. And Racer X successfully car fights them into kicking Taijo out of the truck and rescues him. And then they have a fight on the road because Taijo's like, I'm doing this for revenge, because they're trying to destroy my family's independent racing company.
Mm-hmm.
And Car Batman is like, no, you got to do this for justice or not at all. And he just leaves his ass there.
Sick.
Speed talks to Trixie, who is now grown and is now Christina Ricci, about whether or not he should take this offer. And she's like, down atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I don't care, shut up. Why aren't you fucking me right now?
Yeah, well, she also says do you like racing more than me? She wants to be his official girlfriend, and he's like, but there might be fans at the red carpet event, and if we have our photo taken together, people might figure out who you are, and you gotta help people maintain a parasocial relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
And also he's setting up her character arc for later, which is she's like, it would be great if I could be with you when you win the trophy. I want to be there and kiss you in the winner's circle. And he's like, yeah, that could be cool. Let's fuck in this car. Oh wait, there's a chimp.
Then there was a chimp.
There's a chimp locked in the trunk.
You don't fucking do that.
It's like the start of Nope immediately, just all of a sudden. It's like, oh shit.
I want you to know
that child is dead. That chimp has
child has
consumed
no
that child.
face
Yeah.
anymore. That shit's gone.
I want you to know that this movie has an unacceptable rating from the American Humane Association. The people who do the no animals were harmed in the making of this production, animals were harmed in the making of this production. And one of the ways in which animals were harmed in the making of this production is that one of the stunt chimps bit Spritel and the trainer beat the chimp.
Oh my god!
Oh no! That's not.
That is true.
That's not right, man. Like, it is like the start of Nope. Fuck.
Jesus.
Imagine
Yeah, the
halfway
train-
through the movie Speed Racer by the Wachowski Sisters. It just you get a fucking Gordy's home situation.
Oh my god.
They just abused a chimp
Oh my
in order to
God.
make the movie Speed Racer.
Jesus.
And that's really funny because the chimp doesn't need to be there. What, like,
Yeah.
the chimp has no impact on the story whatsoever. It could have
Yeah.
been played by like a CGI dog, and
You
it would
could
have
have had
been
like,
fine.
Spritel has like a toy chimp that he carries around with him, and it's just like a
By
little
the
nod.
way-
Like, there's no point.
By the
No,
way,
it's a real chimp.
you remember Crusher Block's piranhas that I mentioned in
I know 'em.
passing? I thought those piranhas were CGI, right? The other American Humane Association unacceptable incident is they just killed 5 piranhas, like real ones, and they don't know how. to this day.
Oh my
they
God.
Just found they got done pulling the trainer off of the chimp, and then they went back in the
Sean Connery
fish tank.
was training that chimp, and he fucking went in with a shoe.
And
Just
they just found
5
dead piranhas.
Jesus.
Oh, that's unacceptable.
But that is true.
Oh, fuck me sideways. That's on. Well, gentlemen, it's not funny when an animal gets harmed. However,
It's
However, it's kind of funny.
it's conceptually funny and practically horrifying.
The
and then
reality of the
conceptually
situation
funny
is
again.
horrendous.
Yes, yeah. But when you say the chimp bit a child actor and then the trainer beat the chimp, that's
It's just the novelty of being able to say that sentence.
Which
so-
chimp was
exactly.
it?
So
they had
Speed
So
God.
Speed goes to meet Royalton. He's like, "Hey, you thought about my offer?"
and he's like, and Speed is this sort of like corn-fed, youth. It's like
I desperately want to talk about. There's a scene that is a meeting between Royalton and Mr. Musha, who's the CEO of a different company. He's played by Hiroyuki Sanada, who is the exact guy you cast when you want this exact character.
wasn't he in Cyberpunk 2077 as well?
He's in a lot. He gets fucking work, and he deserves it. But the scene is a conversation between these two men where they plot doing, I don't know, like Monopoly, right? Like they plot doing corporate shit. It is shot so bafflingly. These two people are stood next to each other, and the way that the conversation happens is that their faces are sliding by the screen in different directions, like up, down, sideways. It's just
wild.
it really sells. It really sells the concept of a scene, right? How would you put this together? Shot, reverse shot. Fool, moron, imbecile. The Wachowskis, they know what they're fucking doing. Everyone is sliding in different ways at different angles, and it gets across the sense a little better than shot, reverse shot would. Not much,
Does it?
but a little
I don't
better.
know what the fuck their plan is. Anyway, Speed goes to meet
So
Royalton.
Speed, he goes to meet Royalton and he says, "Thank you for the offer. It's very generous, but I'm gonna have to respectfully decline at this time." And Royalton activates Toto Wolf mode.
Speed
There's-
talks about how racing is his art. It's his almost like religion, and this big corporate sponsors, they sort of get in the way of the art, he feels. So he, respects it, but he wants to stay independent. And
Yes.
Royalton goes
And at this
off.
point, an enormous Mercedes logo descends from the ceiling, and Royalton goes, "Listen here, you little shit. I'll kill you, first of all. Second of all,
A. B.
Hey, Hey, I will fucking destroy you. You are meddling with the primal forces of nature, Mr. Beale. And so he explains to him, racing is fixed. It has always been fixed. It has been fixed in order to control corporate interests. It is like, in order to like arrange stock buyouts and takeovers and things like this. And the result of the Grand Prix, the thing that you were really invested in, the thing that you like, all of your heroes come from, like all of your narratives of like battle and stuff. That wasn't like an accounting transaction. All of that was like done in order to like, you know, raise graph, lower graph. You're a moron. Do as you're told. Otherwise, I'll kill you and your entire family.
Yeah,
and it goes so hard. It's like Buscemi in Spy Kids. It's like you drop this out of this movie into something else. It belongs in fucking Network.
But he is
great.
He's the villain of the film. But he does make the point. I think it's almost the exact line. It's just like industry built racing. Like there would not be a racing. All this talk of like art and religion, like this whole thing that you do would not exist were it not for these like capitalists. And it was at this point that I realized this film was a lot cleverer than I thought, because this film is about making films. This is the film that the Wachowski sisters made after The Matrix, which was their like big,
when they could do
successful
anything.
thing, do anything they want, and they released this thing, this like statement, which is about trying to make art in a very corporate environment and like the compromises we have to make and the difficult decisions that have to be made in the light of that. And I this is the scene where I realized that, and I was like, oh fuck, that's actually quite good.
Yes! Racer pilled. Baby, I fucking knew this. I was like, stick with it. Trust.
The most interesting bits of this film are the bits where nobody's racing. The racing, I was bored.
Yes.
Honestly, it looks weird. I don't like it. The scenes where the characters just talk to each other about the themes of the film, great. Love it. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
It reminds me a lot of the first third of The Matrix 4, the latest one, where they're talking about like the legacy of The Matrix and like Neo is being forced to remake The Matrix again and again by Warner Brothers. And I'm like, oh fuck, like they've been dealing with these themes throughout for the last 20 years of their careers. This is like really good shit.
It's wild how trans women are like interested in like authenticity and like things of this nature.
It's very strange to me.
And the idea of like having to like perform certain things. Anyway, so yeah, gives the big evil speech, which is great. And keeps the wreckage of a car from a guy who got killed in order to like advance one of these stock maneuvers in his office as a reminder. And he like, you know, touches the side of it. He's like, "That's my religion." It's really good.
Really solid. And we're sort of tipped off to the seriousness of this before the scene even starts to play out, because Speed Racer arrives on his like on the private jet that's been sent to pick him up, and he's met on the helipad by Jeannie. And the shot is from behind Jeannie at about floor level, so you only see her shoes and like the bottom half of her legs. But it still communicates emotion because she's tensing and untensing them the entire time. So you're about like, all right, what's on her mind? I think it's good. That's my note.
So Speed goes to the next race where now, of course, everything has been sort of bought against him, and so, you know, people are looking at him in the locker room. The second he gets into the race, everyone tries to sabotage him.
That's right.
And ultimately, they win. He is like forced out of the race as like a did not finish.
One of the other races uses an illegal gadget called a spear hook and like totally fucks him up. And then the racer family are given like frivolous lawsuits, which don't go anywhere, but it like damages their reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. In the locker room afterwards, he meets one of his heroes, Ben Burns, one of the sort of like Grand Prix drivers.
We should.
And he's like,
probably talk specifically about that race, because that's Speed's entire motivation is that one night after his brother had run away and was in the process of being killed by the mob, him and his father Pop just watched this like old ass Grand Prix, and it was watching that together that like really reignited both of their love of the whole game in itself. And part of Royalton's thing is no, that Grand Prix specifically was bought, and I can tell you every detail of it. So when he meets this guy who was the winner in this locker room, and he goes, "Is it true?" He gives a sort of non-answer, but one that we're supposed to take to mean yes, and it shatters him.
It's like,
Yeah.
mhm.
Also, Racer X is there in this race and like tries to help out Speed unsuccessfully.
Yeah. So at this point, he goes home, and Susan Sarandon tries to give him like a pep talk.
Susan Sarandon gives us one of those scenes where it's like, just in case you missed the theme of the film.
Yeah,
She calls Speed.
The theme of the film is
She says,
art.
"You're an artist.
It's about
Speed.
art.
And when I see you
and she's
making
like,
your art, it takes my breath away. And, I'm just so proud of you. And you've got to find the motivation to keep going."
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You have to continue to create art even under sort of like corporate governance.
Even though
in
this
defiance of it.
film bombed Speed, you make good art, and you will make good art again, Lily and Lena.
Which is the movie sucking itself off a bit, but I will say it's coherent. It's a coherent theme.
It's a little bit Baby's first theme, isn't it? Really, I mean,
I don't see many films doing this. Like, but then Racer X
watch
arrives.
the entire filmography of Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. I think you would genuinely like those. They tackle similar things.
The next plot point knocks on the door, and this is Car Batman, Racer X, along with he's brought Inspector Zenigata with him.
That's right. He's called Inspector Detector, which, first of all, hell yes,
he is. Inspector Detector.
Not sure why he dresses like a French paedophile, but okay.
He doesn't dress like Simone de Beauvoir. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, racing.
We're calling you out, de Beauvoir.
You've been talking shit on Twitter.
Sick of your shit, Simone.
That's right. So, Inspector Detector is like, no, it's crazy how all of this like motorsport is linked to organized crime. We need you to infiltrate this shit, because Taijo Togokan, the guy who we saw getting kicked out of the truck earlier, he is racing in like not the sort of Formula One, not the regular racing, but a sort of like cross-country rally. And we need you and Racer X to go and like keep him out of trouble because they're gonna try and kill him. And Pops finds out about this and fucking goes in on rallying as a sport.
Rally racing is a back alley sport filled with jackals, headhunters, and thugs.
And a lot of Finnish people who incidentally control the media.
My favorite part of this scene is that Racer X just has a gun, just a straight up like actual gun on his hip. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, in this world of like cartoon like saws and shit, he's just carrying like a Glock. Like,
you're a car driver, man. Like, it's like a fucking like. I've forgotten the name of every single Schumacher, whatever, that guy maybe. What if he just rolled around the place with a fucking gun the entire time?
If somebody jacks Racer X's car, that's his whole career, isn't it? Like, he's got to protect himself.
So he goes to talk to Trixie again, and Trixie's because Pops forbids him to go, because he's not going to lose like two sons to the same race. So Speed Racer goes and he talks to Trixie about it, and Trixie's like, "Why don't you just lie to your family?" He's like, "Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. We pretend that we're going on vacation, and then we enter the race. They like outfit the car with a bunch of like gadgets. Q in this is again 11 out of 10 smoke show baddie because women. It's called Minx, by the way, which was great. We also see that the race is launched by the queen of the country that it's in, who is also an 11 out of 10 smoke show baddie.
Yeah.
And we see that sort of like every single racing team, and the teams here are sort of like, if you've seen the movie The Warriors, right?
Yeah, they're all themed. There's like a Viking one.
The teams are so good. Every shot of the gangs that Cruncher is bribing has the most like me and the boys energy of all time. Like the Viking one is so good because it's just, again, these guys are race car drivers. That's their job. Are like all in a fucking mead hall eating like elk or some shit.
They're very
It's
committed to the bit.
And everyone else gets bribed with cash, and they get bribed with fur pelts, which I really
funny,
like.
really good.
But yeah, stay looking good, Warriors. Real good. All of these teams are like bought out against them and like attack them one by one.
But Speed and Racer X work together really, really well in order to defeat them. Despite how well they work together, so this rally has 3 races and they don't win the first one.
What 2 things I noted here? First of all, the racing of this sort of like Lego playset at this point. It's very visually whatever.
I think there were a number of Lego playsets even.
Second of all, honestly, how come they never cast Matthew Fox as Batman? Is my question, because it went through a kind of a fallow period when he was like up and like.
Yes, bad timing. I guess Christian Bale ended up into the post.
He's doing Lost, I guess. But so at this point, we get some domestic comedy. The upshot of which is Pops finds out that against his wishes, Speed is like in this race.
That's right. The chimp's watching TV or some shit. It doesn't. Whatever.
Yes. Yeah. And so they go and confront them. We get a hint of the most obvious twist in the world about Racer X when Speed's like, hey, wait a second.
Well, Speed just says it. Speed's like, Racer X.
Yeah,
and he's like,
"You're my brother?"
you're quite clearly my brother, aren't you? And he's like, no.
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 At least they didn't drag it out, because at this point, immediately, as soon as Matthew Fox was here, I was like, well, that's obviously Rex. So it's kind of cool that like 40 minutes into the film, Speed's just like, I know you're my brother. What are you doing?
Yeah. So we get the thing where Pops is mad, but like he ultimately like gets over it. We get a long, weird John Goodman grunt. Also, when they're arguing, Susan Sarandon, Mom, calls her own husband Pops, which is fucking
that's weird
as shit.
That's weird to me.
And then they all go to bed right after Pops has agreed to work on the fucking car, and they steal a bit from You Only Live Twice.
Yeah, because ninjas attack.
Yeah,
a ninja breaks into Taijo's room and like drips poison down a wire into his mouth, which is from You Only Live Twice. They break in to try and attack Speed. And we get some surprisingly good fight choreography.
Yeah, at this point we remember that these women made The Matrix, because Matthew Fox does some like pretty good fucking kung fu against this cartoon.
It's genuinely like remarkably good for a children's movie. The chimp is either slacking or just loves human-on-human violence, because he watches this ninja fight like 3 people. He could tear it apart in an instant.
Spritel and the chimp do fight, though, a ninja. My notes say it's not funny.
That's my note regarding everything that Spritel and the chimp do.
Yeah.
We haven't mentioned them at all. During the really pivotal emotional scene earlier with the villain speech, it's just cutting back and forth to Spritel and the fucking chimp.
It's
like,
fuck
them.
They're doing some spiky shit. Yeah. So John Goodman suplexes a ninja. By the way, when Trixie runs into the scene, Trixie and Susan Sarandon run into the scene from same room. Susan Sarandon, who calls her husband Pops, is sleeping in the same room as Trixie and not the same room as her husband, although they have separate rooms. I'm just curious.
I just want to know where Sparky's sleeping. That's what I want to know.
Yeah. He moves around.
Yeah.
The romance in the film is like very, very chaste. I don't think anyone really has sex in the Speed Racer universe. The closest we get to it is when Trixie sees Speed in a suit earlier on and goes hubba hubba, and that's the only hint we get of sex.
He says cool beans the most hornily anyone has ever said it, which is weird. I didn't pull the clip, but, it's there.
So John Goodman suplexes a ninja and kicks him out the window. Trixie goes,
oh my god, was that a ninja?
Which, great.
Thanks for coming, Trixie.
Follow-up line.
Terrible what passes for a ninja these days.
Which, again, sounds racist when you clip it.
I swear to God, he's a good character in the movie. He just sounds really, really bad.
The outcome of this is that Teijo is alive, but he can't race because he's
drugged.
Yeah, he's been drugged. So Trixie takes his place.
And we get a sort of like surprisingly insightful thing, which is everyone's a feminist until it's a woman doing his job. Speed Racer is like, Oh yeah, no, it's I totally, when I said it was fine for you to race with me, I definitely meant that. I wasn't just saying this, like, obviously fuming the whole time.
Yeah. They bicker, and like a guy, well, Snake Oiler tries to take out Trixie, and Speed like kicks his ass.
Yeah, which gives us this line.
Now their gloves are off and they're pounding one another.
Yeah. So, they can get like stalled in like a dead spot of the cameras where Speed once again goes, "Hey, are you my brother?" and Racer X goes, "No." They get held up by Cruncher again.
My notes say fighting. I'm bored.
Yeah,
My note says 1:16:19, first direct acknowledgement of the chimp. Which,
yeah.
Someone's like, "That's a chimp," and I'm like, "Oh my god, they could see it too!" Thank God.
Cruncher Block gets chimp shit thrown in his face, and it remains there for the rest of the scene.
The race continues into the same turns where Rex was killed. Speed goes over the cliff, but then he drives up the other side. Mine would say a bad guy just uses a fucking gun.
Yeah, I also
Snake
have
Oiler
that too.
decides to abandon the use of gadgets and just like starts just opens
like
fire.
having
on
I
people.
have that as well. It's like the final car gadget gun. Like all of the buttons have
greatest
been
gadgets
pressed, and he's
of
like,
all.
"All right, fuck it, I got a Glock."
Yeah. So Tejo switches back into the car now. He's well enough to drive. They win. Tejo immediately betrays them.
Yes.
Because like he and his dad are in it to just drive up the price at which they get bought out, but they're still going to let themselves be bought out. And it's only his sister, who is like
10 out of 10 smoke show baddie.
Haruka, who is
That's right.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 smoke show baddie, who is not into this, and we see her being like, I'm gonna like fix this.
Speed is really upset. Racer X chases him down, and then because you've got to
And
keep
Speed
making
goes,
art.
"For God's sake, are you my brother?" And he takes off the helmet to reveal a different guy, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I guess you are." Fair enough.
He's like, no, I'm not. I'm genuinely not. Your brother was just killed. I have a different face. I'm not him. But he says, you've got to keep making art, even though like corporations will try and fuck you over, because that's the theme of the film, Speed Racer. And then we get some fucking character growth from John Goodman, because Speed is going to leave.
Yes. I love this
And
scene.
I love this scene.
It's
John
like
Goodman
poetry.
is-
It rhymes, right?
John Goodman's like, I'm not going to make the same mistake I did with your brother. Like, I love you. I'm proud of you. Whatever happens, you can always come home. And Speed's like, oh, thank you.
Because John Goodman's character has realized that like he's had all this time, and he's essentially come to a conclusion that kids are gonna want to leave home no matter what. The only thing that he can change about this is his own attitude towards it. So he just like reassures Speed that he will always love him, and that if he leaves through that
It's
door,
like-
he can come back anytime, and it will be
Essentially, what happens is John Goodman has been sitting up watching Everything Everywhere All at Once, finishes watching that movie, and is like, right, time to do some fucking parenting, boys.
It's like, all right, life's precious. Okay, I love you dearly.
You can't cling on to your family forever.
He does a great job in this.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
yeah,
it's
it's
really
good.
good. I wrote "it's good" in full caps twice, actually.
Yeah.
Again, the good bits of this film are where the characters just sit down and do some good acting with each other.
Yeah, the cars are
So-
sort of.
Haruko shows up and is like, I have, in a sort of a contrived way, I have Taijo's invitation to the thing. If you take this because you won in the thing, you can get into the Grand Prix.
Yeah, he was
and
going to turn
complete
it
your
down
character
anyway,
arc.
so it's not. There's no stakes. Don't worry. And you're like, all right,
Yeah.
cool, thanks.
So John Goodman's like, all right, fine. You, me, the American family, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are gonna outcompete, woke, gay.
These
evil
motherfuckers had
corporate
no idea the
BMW,
power of the nuclear
Mercedes.
family and our Australian. So
Live
let's
in-
fucking let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
They build a new
And
car.
so
They build a new. They build
They
a Mach
built a new
6.
car and like, yes. And like Speed enters the race.
Mhm.
We get on the starting grid as he forces his way in. We get an emotional Sparky moment.
Yeah, we do.
Sparky completes his character
Yeah,
arc.
we get it.
Sparky is like, I couldn't have done it without you. Well, just think of me
Probably
when you
could, actually.
By the way, because this is a children's movie, they don't have champagne when they win. They have a glass of ice cold milk.
Yes, they do.
Which
And
is
I wrote,
really fucking funny.
not going to examine the milk. Just going to let that one go.
No.
Not everything
So
has to
Spock
mean
is like,
something.
just remember me when you're drinking the ice cold milk.
Just
Great
remember
line.
me when you're drinking that milk, baby. And I was like, yes.
Holding hands with Christina Ricci,
Uh-huh.
who will be
kiss.
dressed quite modestly for some of the women in the winner's circle.
Yes. We get maximum wipes at this point.
Yeah, we do.
Because what we're trying to convey is all eyes are on Speed Racer. Fucking Royalton doesn't expect him to be there, and so on. He is. Everyone is shocked, and so we get a wipe of fucking every fucker in this movie across the screen, and it's really
Pretty
really
sure
a
the chimp
lot.
is in there.
The way the movie wants to tell you that everyone's looking at Speed Racer is to get like 10 different commentators to all go, everyone's looking at Speed Racer, and just
Which
like
is very,
slide
like,
them across the screen.
Very true to the cartoon, which was
it's
obvious.
Like, it's an effective anime adaptation, certainly. I'm not saying that. Not
But,
even saying I didn't like
Royalton's built a new car, which is like a supercar, and Cannonball Taylor's going to be driving it, which is kind of weird. It should have been Ben
And
Burns.
he's
but
put
whatever.
he's put a spear hook in it. So
and
as
Taylor's-
like a final thing, be like cheat. You know,
and Taylor's there like,
if you can't win,
I don't
cheat.
need a fucking spear hook to beat this kid. And Twitch Royalton's like, hey, okay, then don't use it. Still put on the fucking car.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. He also he offers like a $1 million bounty to like the racer who takes Speed Racer off the board.
Mhm.
They race. You know how it is. It's structured a lot like a video game.
Yeah.
Speed has to use all of the sort of like previous knowledge he's accumulated.
Indeed. Uses every power up.
He faces off against Cannonball Taylor, who he outraces to the point that Taylor is forced to use.
This is the only time
spear
anyone
hook.
in the film swears. Speed says, "Get
Yeah,
that
as-
weak shit off my track," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, it's sick,
get it-
actually.
get his
It's
ass.
fucking
one for the
good.
12-year-olds in the audience.
Shit.
Learned a new word watching this movie. And so
12-year-olds know that shit.
the Mach 6 is disabled, and it breaks down. Sparky doesn't
Oh
know how
no,
to
sorry.
fix it. He
Before
gets
that
his
happens,
fucking-
so Taylor uses the spear hook, so he's latched to Speed's car. He tries to cheat, and Speed uses his gadgets to flip his car over in front of the CCTV cameras, so everyone sees on the underside that the spear hook's been used. And it also causes Taylor to wreck out, so everyone like sees that Royalton is cheating and like shuns Royalton. But his car is totally knackered and won't start until he uses the car force, like Rex.
Yeah,
told
and
him.
he pictures his brother going, remember, you gotta listen to the
Close your
car
eyes
and it'll tell you what it
listen to your
needs.
heart. Mhm. Yeah,
And he does
By
that.
the way, Sparky during this is doing some fucking like Star Trek engineering warp core shit, trying to fix it. He's like thumbing through manuals, and he doesn't really do anything. So you know,
He adds
yeah,
nothing
fuck
to this
Sparky.
fucking movie.
In fact, Speed
It's-
tells him
no.
to be quiet so that he can listen to the car force.
Yeah.
Speed's like, shut the fuck up, man. I'm trying to listen
So
to the
at
car.
At this point, we get something that I do like, which is Speed sort of this is, I would say, a pretty fucking inventive, at least, attempt to convey the concept of being in the fucking zone, like being in the mindset when you're in the mindset, like how I am when I'm podcasting.
That's right.
Where you're like,
He's
you're
horny?
seeing through time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, horny.
Well, actually, it is kind of
kinda
horny
like that.
because a futurist would explain this as an orgasm, right? He like transcends the barrier between man and machine. He like becomes sort of like a gestalt of both, and he understands why he races, and like everything else around him like melts away, and it's just him and the car.
Mhm.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Goes
he
sicko mode.
wins the fucking race. That's
Yeah.
underselling the way that they do this. It's like, I don't know. I didn't love it exactly, but I think it was sort of the triumph of this era of CGI.
No, I was excited.
I loved it. I
Yeah.
had a great time with it.
But he
I was like,
wins.
woo, he did it.
They get to the winner's circle. There's a woman who's like standing in the back of the winner's circle who's just like a 12 out of 10 smoke show baddie. She's just like a supporting artist.
It's just there.
This film just has just like a lot of beautiful women just like standing around watching it, which, great. I also like that.
The Togokans become nice again.
Yeah, they
which is
cheer for Speed. They're like, we
they're
got
like
what we wanted.
won over by his art,
Yeah. They're like,
Racer
even the
X.
cynical guys who only create art to make money will actually see the value in the art that you create.
Yeah, they go, this is a good film, actually.
And I went, yeah.
So Racer X leaves, and Inspector Detective on his way out is like, did you tell him that you're really his brother and you had special Matthew Foxification surgery to hide? And he goes, no, I didn't tell him.
Fuck, I wrote down facial foxification surgery too.
I also wrote down the spy with my face.
Oh, we gotta stop hanging out.
Oh god.
Speed kisses Trixie in the winner's circle.
It's the Racer X thing is a sort of like curious curious sort of moral. It was interesting because first of all they double bluff the viewer, but second of all because it's like, oh, do you want to go back and like get closure and meet with your family and review yourself? It's like no, maybe it was a mistake, but I don't live with it. I look like Matthew Fox now.
Maybe the choice was wrong, but I made it.
It's like, I have to buy way fewer Christmas presents now. It's really good.
Yeah, we get a kiss with Trixie with some like curiously heart-shaped bouquet, which is nice, and then we get
I like
what
that.
I like to
They do a lot
call
of bouquet in this.
the Chinese Fight Club ending. Are you familiar with the way that they end the movie Fight Club for distribution in China?
No.
So it was censored in order to because the original ending of Fight Club is they complete Project Mayhem, spoilers, they blow up a bunch of like credit card company office buildings and like the revolution starts. This is unacceptable to the censor who has given Fight Club, and so they cut it off 10 minutes early and go, he handed himself into the police who arrested everyone and it was fine. Remember to always report things to the police. That's legitimately it's fully
really
that's
funny.
the ending. Is there's a title card that's like, Tyler Durden handed himself into the police and then they put him in a mental institution and he got out because they fixed him. Everything is fine. Basically the same thing, which is this guy went to jail. Royalton goes to jail for what Inspector Detective, by the way, calls about an hour earlier capital corporate crimes, which suggests to me that they're going to fucking execute.
Yeah, it's a capital offense.
No, I think because there used to be a thing called the corporate death penalty, which let's fucking return with a V to that, which is that if your corporation or your business does something suitably bad, the government just says you can't be a corporation anymore and dissolves it, which we should bring back.
Yeah, we should also bring back putting CEOs in jail. And
just the regular death penalty.
Prison.
We should just bring back these motherfuckers with a gun or something.
Just Matthew Fox, just with the gun. Just the final gadget, gun.
Yeah. The last line of justice, Matthew Fox with a gun. And that's Speed Racer. I'll be honest, I've enjoyed talking about the movie Speed Racer a lot more than I enjoyed watching it, right? It has grown on me in that sense, but I'm not sure whether that's because I liked the movie more in hindsight or because I just love my friends.
It's 2 hours and 50 minutes long. It feels it.
It's
you could have
longer
cut
than it needed
all
to
the
be.
child and chimp scenes. Really,
It wasn't weird in any of the ways that interest me. It did some interesting things. I appreciate it sort of art is necessary, anti-capitalist art is possible thing. I think the fact that it was a commercial failure makes that more pointed. But I also don't think that... I think if we're doing a fair critical reappraisal of it, I don't think it's a good movie. I don't think it was that much fun to watch, and I think maybe people missed the point, but that's part of the point of it, is that people were going to miss the point. I think you sort of you build that in,
I do. I think the fact that it's so colorful and childish and hyper, I think is explained perhaps in part because one of the directors had recently come out, at least in her private life. And
Are you telling me this shit's pink clouded?
I think so.
I was about to say this is the pink heels of films.
I think it is.
Okay.
Fuck.
I think for that
I
reason
still
it's like
have
full
a
of
pair
like
of
joy
those
and like
back in
sugar
my
and like
closet.
excitement and like let's go back and
threw mine
we'll
out.
be kids again and we'll have a hyper time. I think it is because it belongs to that like special phase of a trans woman's life when she's quite recently come out and it's like playing catch up essentially on all the excitement and joy that we miss.
As far as that kind of like bubblegum femininity stuff goes, what I would say is fucking John Goodman is right. You can always go back. You literally always can, and that's I don't know. I just wanted to throw that in there. But
Right, yeah.
that was Speed Racer. And I don't know.
I mean, I massively enjoyed it. So this was my pick. And the reason this was my pick is a little bit of fan service to the Hogs, because they have been talking about Speed Racer essentially nonstop for well in advance of a year now. And one person very specifically was like, I'm not going to be able to continue to get the bonus episodes when the winter of content ends. But I will pay the moment they do Speed Racer. And I calculated that this is the last bonus episode before the winter of content ends, and I just wanted to give that person for like years of support a little something back to the Hogs in general.
Nice.
All right.
And
That's so
additionally,
nice.
I do have a dispatch here from friend of the show and all three hosts, Matty Lubchansky, to just sort of break this tie here about whether Speed Racer is a good movie or not, which is
I agree with Devin.
A beautiful little.
So it's I think because I'm the only one against that is now 5 votes of hosts of KJV.
Well, I mean, you say that you're against it, but I happen to have a clip here as well that says.
I agree with Devin.
So I don't know about that. I think
Shit.
you agree with me, and additionally, I think you agree with me because I have a very damaging clip of you speaking here that I will play if you don't come over to my side of thinking.
Speed Racer rules.
That's
you
right.
have to pay for the bonus episodes again now.
Yep. Because we have to
Goodbye.
make art in the context of capitalism.
That's right, and this is the clip.
So. A large part of the sort of torture program at Guantanamo Bay was like based. Yeah, Zero Dark 30. Whose bonus episode is it next?
I think it might be you.
I think it's you, Alice.
It's mine?
Yeah.
All right, no more procrastination. We are doing
No, we
the
are.
Pedro Almodovar movie All About My Mother or fucking else.
Bet we aren't.
That's the next one. You will have to pay for it. You want colorful, you will continue to get colorful. But in the meantime, we will be back with the next Man from U.N.C.L.E. and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to yet another episode of Kill James Bond. Next week on the free feed, it's the final of the uncles from the 60s. I don't remember the name of it. I would look it up, but I've realized right now while recording that would be slightly annoying to do, so I'm just not gonna do that. But yeah, that's what you got to look forward to. So, Jesus, I'm not even trying anymore. Yeah, I'm not. Anyway, here are our £15 above patrons: Candy Fox, Frere Aloysius, Gustavo Lira, Jack Holmes, Mike Berg, Thomas Overhart, Nick Boris, Kentucky Fried Commie, Yarrick, Nata Mori, Cohen Enright, Harriet de Kock, Labour de Lender Est, Ozymandias, Beef Crime, Library Hitman, Max Gaimanhart, Callan Burney, Jack Drummond, Jonathan Curtis, Kit Devine, Hell, Jay Martindale, Lysomage, Jonathan Siegel, Tarp O, Big Titty Goth Girl, Harrison Fuller, Mothman, George Rohack, Trip, Isopod Gal, Clara, Roasting Marshmallows. Oh no, it's Andrew, 95. Violet Cybra, Alex, the spy who ruined my marriage, Liz and Ash in Florida, a trans robot, Men's Room Louie, Ronan, Annie Ruby, Connor's cool big sister, Wolscott, Maz, Zoe Shepherd. My jokes keep being on the wrong episode. Given up trying. Not even trying anymore. Elizabeth Cox, Finn Ross, Quinn Valeri, Roll History Pod, Josie, Alfredo, Artemis Potter, and Elizabeth Ball. Turfs Eat Shit and Die Alone. Ray Area, Wolfie, Al Irving, Robert Greensmith, Millie, Josh Simmons, and Lauren Bastin. Thank you for your support. This has been the final free bonus episode of the winter of content, because it will come out on the 1st of March. Kill James Bond is Alice, Abigail, and Devon. Our producer, the wonderful Nate Bethay. Our podcast art by Matty Lubchansky. Our website by Tom Allen. See ya.